What's up guys, Chris Schwartz-Edmondson here from Schwartz-Edmondson Web Design. In today's video, we're going to talk about the new block that Squarespace just released, the scrolling block. And we're going to look at some examples of how we can utilize this block to create some really creative designs in Squarespace 7.1. So I'm here in my 7.1 site, and I'm going to go ahead and add the scrolling block to this section. You can see here it's just alternating this content and it's scrolling it all the way across the screen. So in the block UI editor here, we have a content tab and we have a design tab. So here for the content tab, let me just go ahead and replace this with some example text. So this will be example 1. And then to make it very different, I'll add another item and I'll have this say like orange, for example. So you can see we can add as many items as we want to, and it's just going to alternate them and scroll them all the way across the page, which is pretty cool. In this content tab, we also get the option to add a link. Now, unfortunately, we can't add a link to every single item, but we can add a link. So no matter if you click on orange or example 1, it would take you to whatever page that you link it to. So I'll link this to my about page. I would love Squarespace to see in the individual text tab if we could add individual links. And that way, for example, you could have like about us and services, 2 different options scrolling across the screen, and we could set up individual links per word. But as of right now, we only get a general link for all the words. Heading over to the design tab, we have a little bit of customization that we can do. We have this wave intensity, which is really interesting. You can crank that way up and it gets real wavy. But for me, I like it when it's just in a straight line. So I'm going to keep that all the way to the left. For the text style, we can either do heading or paragraph. Unfortunately, we can't break it out into like heading 1, 2, 3, and 4 or paragraph 1, 2, or 3. So this is pretty much just limiting us to either the heading family, like heading text style, or the paragraph text style. And then we have the text size customization here, small, medium, large. Of course, we have this slider here where we can set a custom text size as well. I'm going to stick with small. We have the direction. We can have it scroll to the right or to the left. We can control the speed. I'm going to keep it on slow. We have this pause on hover option, which is cool. So once you save it, you'll see that in effect. And if someone's hovering over a word, then it'll stop scrolling. And as soon as they hover off, it'll start scrolling again. We have this fade edges option, which is kind of cool. So it adds like a gradient effect on the edges. So it's not just such a harsh line on the sides. So that is a little bit of a cool effect that you can add. And then finally, we have the item spacing. So you can really space out these items if you don't want them next to each other, or you can go all the way down to 0 and everything's right next to each other. So limited customization here. I do want to mention that you might be wondering where the color comes from. And the color comes from the heading or paragraph, depending on which you have chosen in the Marquee block editor. It comes from the color theme. So for example, this is a light 1 color theme. If I go to my colors panel, you can see that there. So if I edit my light 1 color theme, it's pulling that color from the heading extra large because I've selected heading in the Marquee. So if I wanted this to be a different color, I would have to change all H1 headings in the color theme. So Squarespace, if you're somehow come across this video, I would love to see individual color settings for the Marquee block that could be different from the heading color. Just because it's nice to have a little bit of extra customization there. And then for the paragraph, if you had selected paragraph instead of heading for the text style, then it would be the paragraph medium color that you would then edit in the color theme. And that's where that color is coming from. So just be warned though, if you change it for the Marquee, you're changing it for all headings or all paragraphs in that color theme. Okay, so that is the new scrolling block. I want to look at some examples of like how would this be used in web design, and I have some sites that I found that use it in a really interesting way. So looking at this site here, this is for Flow Festival, which I guess is a music festival, and they have this scrolling marquee where all the different artists are scrolling across the screen. And as I was saying, Squarespace doesn't have the ability to add individual links to each option. So I would love to see that added. And this website has that ability to click through to individual artist pages. So a very creative site here. It's pretty cool. And they're using this marquee to display their artists, which is nice. Here, this is a pretty creative 404 page. It's a page not found. And you can see they have the scrolling marquees going at different speeds, which is a really interesting effect. So it almost feels like kind of like a parallax type of thing going on because they're all slightly different speeds. And then finally, we have this really creative like portfolio website, and he has them scrolling at an angle, which is obviously really cool. But I like that these two are going to the left and then the middle one is going to the right. So I think that's a really interesting effect. And it also just feels like there's a lot of movement going on and it feels very creative. So these are all things that you could try and accomplish in Squarespace. So for example, if we added another marquee block right below, and the speed on this one is set to 1 time, whereas the speed on this one is set to 0.5. So it creates that really interesting kind of like parallax effect where it feels like there's a lot of movement, but it's really simple. It's just 2 scrolling blocks, but they're moving at different speeds. So that's a really interesting effect. And then another thing that we could do is add another marquee block down below. I keep calling it a marquee block. It's a scrolling block. And we could have this one also go to the left. Let me drag this one up top. And we could have this middle one be slower, but we could also change the direction and we could have it be going to the right. And maybe we have this one be really big as well. So maybe the text size, we do like medium and then less item spacing. And then no fade on the edges. And this is a pretty interesting marquee kind of design too. And in the next video, I do want to go over some customizations that we can make to kind of make it feel a little bit more creative, like adding borders in here, changing the text styling, like an outline like this is a pretty cool effect. So I do want to look at some more customizations in the next video, but just think about how you can use even these built-in options and do some really creative effects by playing with the different speeds, the different text sizes, and just creating some really cool examples like that. I hope you enjoyed this video. Hopefully it gave you a little bit of insight into the scrolling block and also some creative ways that you can implement the block inside of your Squarespace website. In the next video, I want to go over how to get the scrolling block closer to those examples that we looked at. We're going to talk about how to change the text color, some of the text styles, and also how to create that full width scrolling so that the marquee is starting at the very edge of the screen and going to the very edge of the other side of the screen. So if you're interested in seeing that next video, make sure you're subscribed to the channel so you won't miss it. And hopefully I'll see you in the next one.